Okay, now that we've seen how to start Vi, let's see how to perform some basic editing. You'll find yourself in command mode when you start Vi. I think I mentioned that before. So to simply add some text, some regular boring old text to the file, type in a command like A. Can you see the A there? A to append text after the current cursor point. If you type in the command A, you'll then be taken into insert mode. Then you enter some text, whatever text you like, on as many lines as you like. Once you've entered the text, you press escape and return to command mode. Let's see a brief example of that. So, theoretically I'm in command mode, so I type in A. Now notice that the A does not appear on the screen. Instead, down in the bottom left-hand corner of the screen I get insert. Now you may or may not get that in your version of Vi. It depends on the version of Vi. Sometimes you can't tell if you're in insert mode, you just have to know. Anyway, now I type in some text. A quick brown fox jumps over the lazy dog. Now I'm still in insert mode until I press escape. Now I press escape. Notice that the word insert has disappeared from the lower left hand corner of the screen and the cursor has moved back onto the last letter that I typed, which in this case was a G. And if I want to type some more text, I can simply type A again, and now I might want to press the carriage return to go on to the next line and type some more text, and maybe press escape again. And I repeat that until I've finished adding all the text that I want. On this slide I'll run through the myriad of ways in which you can exit Vi and save the changes to your files, or choose not to save the changes to your files. Let's start with the simplest one. :W. That does a save. If you're used to perhaps a Windows-based text editor or word processor, it just does a save, but we think of it as writing the file. Now that will only work if a name has been specified. Let me show you. Now here I am in Vi again, but I have not specified a name for this file. I started Vi, if you like, without specifying a name on the command line, so it's kind of on an empty canvas, or a new document if you like. So if I just type :W, it gives me an error message, no file name. I'll now show you what it looks like if you do have a file name. Here I am in a file called sample.html, and I'm actually editing this file, so I can just do a :W, and it just saves sample.html. Shows me that it has saved 111 lines and 6,330 characters written to the file. So that's :W. Next we have :W, then space, and then the file name. Now that's, if you like, a save as. That's what you need to do in Vi if you did not specify a file name on the command line. And even if you did specify a file on the command line, you can use this particular option to save your changes to a different file, just like a save as. Let's have a look at that. Back in my original file, I could simply type :W and maybe call it new.file or something like that. Then I press enter, and it is a new file. It's got the words new in brackets there, telling me that this file's never been before, and tells me the number of lines and characters again. Now that it's got a name, I can create another line of text. After my new change has been made, I can simply do :W, and because the file has already got a name, I don't need to specify the file name again. Moving on, we've got :Q, which allows you to quit, but only if you haven't made any changes, or the changes that you have made have been saved already, or you've done a :W if you like. So to summarize that, you can only use :Q if there are no outstanding changes yet to be saved. Let's have a look at that. Now I have saved this particular file, so I can do :Q, and it just drops me back out to the shell prompt. If I go back in, Vi new.file, and make a change, another line for example. Now if I try and do :Q, it tells me that I have made no write since my last change. So it gives me an error message. This is very useful. This means that you cannot accidentally exit Vi without a little warning message to tell you that you're supposed to save your changes. So now what you would typically do is do a :W and then a :Q. unless of course you wanted to abandon those changes, and I'll show you that in a second. The next option we have is :WQ, which, as you can imagine, saves the file and then quits. And this would have to be one of the most common ways of exiting Vi, if not the most common of all. You've made some changes to the file, simply do :WQ, saves the changes automatically and quits. Another example of an easy way to, a common way to save the file is :Q, which we saw just a moment ago, which would be used in the case where you're just opening up the file in Vi just to have a look at it. You're not planning to actually edit it in any way. So those last two options represent probably the most common ways of quitting Vi. Let's have a look at :WQ. Here we are again. I have made changes but I haven't saved them. Now I can do :WQ, saves the file and then quits. Next option on our list is :X or Z. Now notice those are capital Z's, not lowercase z's, and notice also that you don't put a colon before either of the z's. This is supposed to be one of the more user-friendly ways of exiting Vi, but I personally don't like it. What it does is it saves the file if you've made any changes, and then quits. And if you haven't made any changes, then it doesn't bother saving the file, it just quits. And the reason I don't like it is you may have accidentally made some changes, especially if you're not very familiar with Vi. You may not even be aware that you've made those changes. So then if you use this option, it will save those changes, and you may not be aware that you've actually modified the file. If you don't believe you've made any changes, then it's simply best to use :Q, and then Vi will warn you if you actually have made some changes. Then of course you can choose to abandon those changes, and I'm going to show that to you now. :Q! You can use the you can think of exclamation mark as meaning really, really. So this would mean really, really quit, and necessarily abandon any changes at this time. So I'll show you an example of that. I'll make some changes, just add some more text to my file, and now :Q, and it tells me there's been no write since my last change. And notice it also says use exclamation mark to override, which is now exactly what I'm going to do. :Q! And it just quits straight out of the file. And if you go back into the file, you'll find that those changes that I made are gone.